A wise man told me we are never given a dream without being given the power to make it true. You'll have to work for it, though. I'm Ron Schneider. Back in the 60s, I grew up around California theme parks, dreaming that someday I could make my living with that same kind of magic. In 1971, I got my first performing job at Magic Mountain. The 40 years that followed were one wild ride. And these are the stories of others who had that same dream and made it come true. Hello and welcome to Wild Rides. I'm Ron Schneider. My guest today is 32 years ago. I met this man, my brother from another mother. We've occupied the same stage many times at the same time, as a matter of fact. And he's an actor, he's a writer, a podcaster, a magician, a good friend of Father Christmas, and the host of the Joe Zimmer Show on YouTube. And that's Joe Zimmer. Joe, thank you.
That's me, yeah. Wow.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. If I didn't know you, I probably wouldn't be here.
No doubt. If I didn't know you, I probably wouldn't be here
well,
either.
There you go.
You started out, you were from New York originally, right?
Correct. Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, New York, yes. And started as an actor?
I started out, well, actually, I started out as a magician, as a little magician.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was never little. I am a little bit littler now. I started out as a magician all those years ago. This is great. I saw the movie Houdini. Mm-hmm. Okay, now this was the one, for those of you who are much younger than I am, the one with Tony Curtis. Now, I didn't see a first run.
A great historical document.
Yes, oh yes, very, yeah. Yeah, I think the only similarity was Houdini. Yeah. Anyways, I saw that movie and I thought, well, that's pretty cool. That's magic. That's neat. And I was hooked. And I was from Buffalo, New York, so therefore, believe it or not, that was literally one of the meccas of magic. Mm-hmm. A fellow named Gene Gordon owned a magic shop up there, and it was truly a magical place. And I got to go and buy stuff from, for about 5 minutes from Gene before he retired, then from a man named Howard Eldridge who bought it after him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was my most humble beginnings. And then discovered acting when I was in middle school. And my mom would say I discovered acting much earlier than that. Mm-hmm. But I discovered acting when I was middle school when they did The Wizard of Oz. And lo and behold, I got to play the wizard. Mm-hmm. And from there on, it's been just one hell of a lucky wild ride. Wild ride. See how I plugged that in there?
Yeah, and what brought you to Florida?
Well, that's a good question.
Thank you very much, I think.
You're very good at this. Yes. The thing is, we came down the first year Disney was open. And frankly, I fell in love. I fell in love with the whole concept of a theme park, I guess. Mm-hmm. Not knowing at that time that's what I fell in love with. Being able to walk into a place and you are totally immersed. Mm-hmm. From the minute Main Street, USA, okay? It was like walking onto the set of The Music Man, literally.
So exactly the image I had when I was doing it.
Well, yeah. And it's funny because you have in your book a story about walking down Main Street, mm-hmm. And you're literally hearing some of the Music Man mm-hmm. stuff, mm-hmm. the music. And I had much the same experience. Mm-hmm. My mind just wandered and went. I was with my family, my mom and my grandmother and my brother, but forgot about them. Mm-hmm. I was there, mm-hmm. And then the cat, it's an amazing place. So I fell in love with that. And year after year, we came back. We came back once a year. I was very fortunate. I've been a very fortunate person. My family wasn't rich, but we were okay. Mm-hmm. At that time, there was an upper middle class. So we were able to do things that others couldn't. And
mm-hmm.
how incredible was that? Mm-hmm. It's changed a lot. Anyways, so one year I decided I'm going to go down and see what I can do. Well, I moved and I lived in a trailer in Kissimmee. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that.
Little advice for you folks at home.
Yeah, really. But anyways, I lived in, and I worked very briefly for Disney, and I worked, believe it or not, in graveyard custodial. 2 nights with the hose in the streets, and I thought I was going to die. In fact, I got very, very sick, and I had to go back to Buffalo. So I went back to Buffalo, and I said, you know, damn it, I'm going back. So SAC Theater, way back in the day, did trunk shows out at Epcot Center. And I came down and auditioned for them with another fellow who was there at that time auditioning with me for that was Joel McCrary, who's now gone on to an incredible career. I'm always far more delighted by what other people are doing than what I'm doing. I have to tell you, I take great pleasure in seeing other people doing cool stuff, especially people I like, of course. Anyways, we auditioned for SAC. We were over right next to the Florida Mall, was where the location was. We were auditioning, and I got cut. I was dejected. I was very depressed. And I went over and I had lunch. I was having lunch at the Florida Mall, and I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was Will Serra, but I don't think it was, who came up to me while I was having lunch because they were all over the other table, and said, you know, we really didn't want to cut you, but you don't live here. And I said, what does that have to do with anything? He says, well, you know, I said, no, if you cast me, I'm going to move, plain and simple, but I'm not going to move without a job. Well, he said, oh, that changes everything. You're back in the mix. So there it was, and then and then I went back and we finished the audition. Okay, you're coming back next week. We're going to start rehearsing, and you're going to go into the show out at Epcot, and we'll see how you work. And from then on, I was working in a theme park. I was working at Epcot Center in Italy, in Il Teatro di Bologna, the Bologna Theater, and that's exactly how we talked. And the Italians from Italy loved us. They thought we were the greatest thing in the world. The Italians from New York, I guess second generation, third generation Italians go, hey, you're making fun of us. No, because if I was making fun of you, I would talk like this. No, you know, but the Italians would defend us out there. It was hysterical. It was what a wonderful time that was. You know, we bring people up for the audience, trunk shows. You know, put them in little costumes and make them do crazy things, and they did it.
So you were working there at the opening of Epcot Center?
No. That would be you.
Yeah. I always get confused.
No, at the opening of Epcot Center, I would have been a little bit too young to go. Thank you. No, it was, honest to God, I'm not good at years. I'm not good at that. But it was a while ago. And then from there, you know, SAC finished. SAC all of a sudden was done. But while I was with SAC, I decided to try my hand at some other stuff because there's all these shows, you know, at that time, there were all these, what do they call them, dinner shows or dinner experiences. And they were experiences, some of them. And I decided I wanted to audition for one of those. And I saw an audition, this fella named Robert Earl, who had a number of shows in town, and they had a show called Fort Liberty. And the character in that show was a medicine man. Now, I'd never seen the show. I never see anything. If it's existing, I don't see it before I audition. I don't believe in that because I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I went in, and they gave me a script and said, do this. Go ahead. The audition was in Robert Earl's office, as I remember it, for Robert Earl. Who for fear that you might have
exactly. They didn't want me to know
you
were auditioning.
No, that's yes. Apparently there was friction. I didn't know, but
I didn't know either.
No one did actually. The interesting thing, except for the people who created it. Anyways. Which one of the questions you asked in the, we'll come back to that. But anyways, I auditioned, and they said, okay, great. So they rehearsed me. They did not tell, Ron, by the way, Ron wrote the show. Ron wrote the show. Ron was starring in the show at the time. And there was this wonderful fella named Norm Riggins, God rest his soul, who was understudying for Ron, who didn't really like understudying for Ron because he didn't like the character. It was totally not a Norm character.
Exactly.
Norm played the sergeant in the show, and that was perfect for Norm. And he had wonderful, incredible voice. What a talent. Anyways, Norm rehearsed me into the show, unbeknownst to Ron. Well, of course, Ron found out. And
when they laid me off, yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it was before that, though.
Yeah, that's right. I remember
you were still you stayed for a little while because they wanted to make sure this old fat guy could replace that old fat. No one could replace that one. Anyways, I got the job, and one of the greatest. And I did actually see the show before I did it with you doing it. And I went, oh, I could do that, I guess. And that was the beginning of the Ron Schneider clone, so to speak. We were literally brothers from another mother. I mean, we do the same kind of shtick. Our shtick is that. And I did the show one night, the first night of the show, and Ron Schneider comes up to me and says, "Congratulations, Professor," and spiels off a number of names that every single one was absolutely right. That's where the inspiration came from. And the rest of that is history. And I got to do that. Then they let Ron go. Shortly after that, in my opinion, out of spite for nothing, was wrong, and I spent about a year there, and then the same thing happened to me, pretty much.
Really? I did not know this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Basically, the same thing happened to me, and probably by the same people. But I don't want to. Let's not go there. What surprised me so much was how many jerks there were, or maybe are, in this industry. There are some nasty, nasty people out there. But I suppose that's true in any industry. Okay? No, I don't suppose. I know it is.
Well, in performance, you've got egos.
Yes.
You've got egos. You've got people who think they're better, more talented, or smarter than they really are. And then, of course, you've got the audience, which are being served beer and wine, which doesn't help the situation at all.
No, but I never, ever had a problem with an audience. Never. It's just a love affair, quite frankly, with an audience. With performers, sometimes, sadly, yes. And for the exact reasons you just mentioned. With management, sometimes, yes, and interestingly enough, for the exact reasons you just mentioned. You know, people hire us to do a job, and they say, "We want you to do this, and we know you can do this, so that's why we're hiring you." And then they want you to do it another way. And sometimes that's good. Don't get me wrong. When it comes from a director, it's a totally different thing. But when it comes from Bob, who shovels the food onto the plates, it's not quite the same thing. Was that mean?
No,
that a mean thing to
completely
say?
accurate.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be Walt Disney. Everybody wants to be the person who creates the show and gets the credit for it, and has other people making their dream come true. And all they know is what they've already seen, so they keep regurgitating other ideas that have nothing to do with what you're trying to create. And yeah, this is one of the hazards you run into when you're trying to build a career.
Exactly. And you know, when I said before, I do not, obviously, if I'm doing Oklahoma, I've seen Oklahoma, okay? Fine. But something new, for example, a really great, two great examples for me was I was the luckiest SOB on the planet. And again, it stemmed from you. I got to do the Diamond Horseshoe show here in Magic Kingdom in Orlando. Not the original one, but the Diamond Horseshoe Jamboree show. And I got to play Sam the bartender. And it was because I was working at Fort Liberty at the time that I even bothered to audition.
It's one thing I'm always telling people, and you're a perfect example of this, is if you want to get into these jobs, if you want to, the thing to do, especially in a theme park, is you get into the company, do anything, hose down the streets for a couple nights. Anything that gets your foot in the door, because once you're inside, You can network.
Absolute fact.
You're privy to all sorts of information.
Yes.
They inundate you with information, and you can meet people. And once you're in, and you know what you're doing, then you get the hell out, go somewhere else, and get a job doing what it is you want to do.
Well, that's very true. And what I forgot to mention was when I auditioned for the Diamond Horseshoe, I had done something crazier than that before that. I auditioned to be a Walt Disney World character.
Right.
Which, I said it, which was a dream job, okay? It is hell on earth, folks. Wrap yourself up in a carpet, put yourself in a bag, and then throw a blanket over that, and you're about halfway to where you are as a character in the parks in the dead of summer.
But the thing is that we get the job somewhere else, doing something else, doing the same thing you want, and then you can get a job filling a hole for them.
And that's exactly what happened. Yeah, that's exactly. And I was in a very good position. I was probably in the best position of any sub at the Diamond Horseshoe ever, because I got to the park. My seniority was as such with that department that I got to the parks at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I did my opening breakfast shift, maybe did 2 sets, and then someone would call in at the Horseshoe, Sam would call in at the Horseshoe, and they'd say, Joe, we need you at the Horseshoe. Then I would transfer over to the Horseshoe, and most of the time that would put me into this crazy, wonderful overtime rate. And the first time it really happened, a couple of times, payroll actually called me and said, what the hell is this? So that was pretty cool.
And of course, the thing about Disney is that once you're in entertainment, they see what you can do. They start plugging you into different shows. They use you in convention entertainment. They use you for Streetmosphere. Use you for special events.
Yeah, I became the mayor of Main Street in the special shows they had there, doing the 2-day mayor of Main Street against, God, one of my favorite people in the universe, Joe Hudgens. There's a Disney legend.
This is the original Dreamfinder.
Yes,
he did it for the groundbreaking.
Yes, sir, he was. And I get a little misty thinking about Joe. Joe's passed on, sadly. But what an amazing guy. What an amazing Disney career right there. But so I was the mayor of Main Street, USA. What? Oh, my God. Are you kidding? This is the same guy who, as a kid, was doing this up Main Street with the music, And then I did the Haunted Mansion Convention show. I originated the role of the butler, in that they still use the same name today. We called him Broom the butler, with a wonderful lady playing Madame Leota, Donna Charles, who
I love Donna.
God, she was out at MGM for so many years playing Rosie. You see, you remember those names because these people and the guests remember you. I had guests who would come up to the Diamond Horseshoe and just come up to see me while I was standing outside before the show started, just to say hi. Just to say hi, to make sure they said hi to me every time they came to the park. So cool. And then, the Diamond Horseshoe was rolling down to an end, sadly, and I was doing the mayor of Main Street and this and that, as busy as they could, They tried to put me into the Barbie show. And I had to go out and watch it a couple of times. And then,
you don't work well in heels. I know that.
And then it closed, and I was never so thankful. So forgive me to anybody.
They had a stage show, a Barbie show for an American Adventure stage at Epcot, a giant musical show.
It was indeed.
I almost said musical comedy, but that was a magnificent.
It had Barbie's car, it had everything. It had Billy Flanagan playing Ken, which made complete sense.
Exactly.
And he still looks the same today as he did then, the bastard. Anyways, so that ended, and then they were auditioning. There were auditions. I didn't know it, actually. They're opening another park in Tokyo called Tokyo Disney Sea. And about one morning, I was kind of in weird straits because I was working and I wasn't working at the same time, I was doing jobs, whatever. I was working for a little while at Rainbow City over on Mills Avenue. It was a Pride store. That's for gay people. Okay. Anyways, so I was working there for a while. While I was working there, I get an email in the wee hours of the morning from a fellow named Michael LaFleur, who is directing, apparently, something for Tokyo Disney Sea. And he said, I want to know if you'd be interested in doing this, because I really, I hope I'm not telling tales out of school. I don't care if I am. But he wrote this because he wrote the character, me. And I'm not sure to be flattered or not, because the character was a wannabe opera star who really wasn't any good, but he was the mayor of Porto Paradiso, which is the big opening of the beginning of Tokyo Disney Sea. It's a massive Mediterranean harbor area. There's Venice over there, and there's a castle over here, and there's the Hotel Miracosta, which was amazing. This incredible Disney at its absolute finest, creating. And if you ever get the chance to go, it's so cool. That whole park is amazing. Stand in line for 2 hours for prawn popcorn.
You, since getting out of theme parks, we did the gig together at Titanic, the exhibition. We were actor guides there. What I'd like for you to touch on is your experience as Father Christmas.
Oh boy, wow. What a joy, what a joy, what a joy. Santa, Father Christmas, Papa Noel. I've been known as all of those. All of those. Again, but interestingly enough, everything comes back to theme parks, Ron. When you say Father Christmas, I was Father Christmas out at Epcot. I was Papa Noel out at Epcot in Canada. Canada for Papa Noel, UK for Father Christmas. Santa and I have a wonderful relationship. And, you know, I've retired 4 times from doing Santa Claus. I said, no more, no more, no more. And then someone says, hey, can you do? Oh, God. Yeah, okay. And then I wind up doing 10 gigs in a year. I don't think that's going to happen this year.
Okay. Tell them the story about going to the wrong house.
I should have known. I would have gotten there. Well, one year I'm called, as I was frequently was, called out to Windermere to Isleworth Country Club to do Santa, to do Santa in someone's house. And it was described to me a big house. Of course, it's a big house. But it was described to me, and then they would have a space open for me in the driveway to pull into, so there'd be no problems, you know. Interesting thing about Isleworth is there are no addresses. There are no numbers. Many times there are just no numbers. So I have the number for the house, so I drive in. It's full Santa drag, if you will. Having passed the security guard out front, they knew me. By this point, they knew me. Like, yeah, get the hell out of here. And I drove up to the house. So I find a house that's got a parking space and a big party going on, so it must be the right one. It's on the right street, right? Goes out there, a lot of parties going on, but this one looked right. So I get out of the car, and there's supposed to be presents out of the front door, but there's not. And I dial up the number on my cell phone. What will we do without those anymore, right? And I call, and no answer. Ah, crap. Okay, I'll just wing it. I'll just go in, because I'm just supposed to burst in. Ho, ho, here I am. So I steal up the courage to do that. I burst in, and I figure I'll just find the presents somewhere, and we'll figure it out. Improv City, right? And I burst in. Ho, 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 hello, everyone. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. And I'm looking around, and it's rather stark for a Christmas party. There's a lot of people, but there's no Christmas. There's no Christmas tree. There's nothing like that. And I keep going, and they're all looking at me like I'm completely out of my mind, but laughing. And suddenly, my eye catches something in the dining room. There's a menorah on the side thing in the dining room. This was the wrong house, folks. It was a Jewish family who were celebrating the holidays, but for the by and large, everybody there was Jewish. And we were laughing. We were dying. And the guy said, well, where are you? We're glad you're here and everything, but where are you? I told him the name of the people I'm supposed to be at. And he says, oh, that's our next door neighbor. Oh, and he knows the guy, and he's invited to their party later on that night. And I go, oh my God. So we're laughing, having fun. I go, oh, I gotta go. I've got to be there 20 minutes ago. They're probably going nuts. They never called me. But anyways, so he says, wait. And he did have an accent. He did. It was very funny. Wait, I got to do something. So he goes and he runs to his, I guess, his bedroom. And he comes back out. He played Tevye a year ago in a theater production, and obviously. And he's got a Tevye costume. He's put it on, and he says, I'm going with you.
He didn't tell me that.
Oh, it's true. He says, I'm going with you. And he says, I'm going to be Hanukkah Harry. Well, he did, and we did. And we picked up the presents on the way in. And never was there more fun on a Christmas. It was Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it was my last show of the night. Because you couldn't top that stuff. and we had a great time, and what a delight. And I wish there were photos, and I don't have a single one. I'm sure they do. And if you're out there watching this, send them to me. There it is. So yeah, Santa, and delightful things like that, and being able to go to the Citrus Club and being Santa, and all the great, and the Isleworth Country Club and being Santa, and meeting with all these some very famous people. Tiger, you get to see, it's amazing who you get to meet in this business. And then you go off to, even going off to another country, Tokyo. I was on a boat with Michael Eisner for 20 minutes. That was excitement. And then I got to go to the last big one for me. They almost killed me, in fact, was going to Osaka for Universal Studios. I got to open a lot of stuff, come to think of it. The Harry Potter area in Osaka, I was a wand keeper, and I did the wand keeper in Osaka in both Japanese and English by myself. Once again, they had someone in the room with me who spoke no English. So I would make little Japanese wizards for a couple hours a day, 3 hours a day. What an amazing experience that was, let me tell you.
Working in theme parks, once you get in, and once you have this wonderful opportunity to learn all sorts of things, because it's such a varied form of performance. You're one-on-one with an audience. You learn so much about how to handle things. You have a chance to be bad because they keep pumping people through, and so you have an endless experience, and you can have a chance to be bad.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you good.
And this is wild because my dear friend, as Ron told you earlier, I have a show, the Joe Zimmer Show. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. You can find it if you want to, and I would suggest you do. It's a talk show, internet talk show. No big deal, but my dear friend from 40 odd years ago, Harrison Carroll, was on the other day. Harrison Carroll's a magician, and he does, he's retired now, but he did trade shows, and an amazing magician. And he said exactly the same thing you just said, Ron, about the Forks Hotel in Buffalo, New York. It was a place you could go as a magician, as a performer, and be bad, which is exactly how you become good. You know, you say, one of the things you were talking about was there ever anything that unfortunate that happened that became very fortunate? Frankly, yes. When, honest to God, strangely, it was horrible when the Diamond Horseshoe closed. Horrible. It sucked, in a word. And there's no better word for it. Jerry Rose will tell you. And we all parted company. But you know, had the Diamond Horseshoe not closed, I would have probably just stayed there for a long, 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 long time. But that the Diamond Horseshoe not closed, I never would have gotten to go to Tokyo. I never would have done that. I never would have done that. I never would have auditioned. Never would have thought of it. And strangely enough, you know, through the years, again, something closed, and I was in a bad position, and I auditioned, and I wound up back in Japan again for 2 years the second time, in Osaka, and just immersing myself in the culture, because, you know, the original capital, everything, Kyoto, that's old Japan down there, very old Japan. Not that it's not old up in Tokyo area as well, but you learn so much, and I met some wonderful, wonderful people that, you know, with Facebook, of course, you get to talk to those people, you know, even if they're in Australia or Japan or London or God knows where else, you know, or in Kissimmee, you know.
Listen, I can't thank you enough.
I can't thank you enough for having me here. This is awesome. This was fun. I mean, but this is nothing different than we would have done if we were sitting in Perkins. Let's be honest.
Probably true. Probably true. Joe, thank you for coming in. This has just been a thrill, and I love you, guy. What can I say? You got to tune in to Joe Zimmer's show on YouTube. He has guests, a different guest every week, and wonderful interviews, wonderful stories. And thank you again, sir.
My pleasure.
I'm Ron Schneider, and if you follow your bliss, you're in for a wild ride.